Così si kaleli Afrika, malupakani su ponowayo, iswaini tanda zoyetu. Così si kalela tina nusapowayo.
I'm Frances Bernstein. I was born in South Africa. I came to England when I was 13 because both of my parents, my mum and my dad, Hilda and Rusty Bernstein, were political activists under apartheid. They were members of the Communist Party and the African National Congress, and they sided with the liberation movement. They were forced to flee South Africa really to escape imprisonment after my dad had been on trial with Nelson Mandela in the Rivonia trial, and the police were also looking for my mum. So they escaped to England, and I've lived in England ever since. Grown up and matured here, and benefited from England welcoming me as an asylum seeker all those years ago. And having done various jobs throughout my life, I now devote quite a lot of my time to choirs, and I've developed a presentation which I do where I talk about my family's history. I talk about apartheid and what it meant and why people went to prison, and I also include in it my choir singing songs from the liberation movement under apartheid, South African freedom songs. My choir is actually called Free Range, and it's a choir that I set up several years ago.
Om,
We're just going to have Om and once more.
Om.
So, yeah, you need to get your breath going before you vocalising it after, so you already get some breath through. Currently, one of my major passions is no longer politics, but choirs. But I guess I've found a way of combining a bit of my South African background and history with my interest in choirs in this current presentation that I do for schools and for adult audiences called Sing Freedom. So it probably brings together bits of my past and bits of my present in a nice way. I put the story, my little personal story, together with some songs. I interwove songs from the period to illustrate. I felt that the songs were really powerful because they were such an important form of expression for people who were denied any other form of expression under apartheid. And they were so emotive, and they conveyed the militancy, the sadness of the oppression, of the funerals, of the mourning, and the militancy of the protest. They conveyed the whole story in a whole different language. It was during the 1940s that a new and more militant leadership came to the fore, a young leadership. Three key leading figures at the time. My dad writes about meeting them in those years. He says, the interconnection of these three great men shaped our history through the decades of struggle which led to the new South Africa. It was the greatest privilege of my life to have been involved with and to have worked with extraordinary men like these, to have been friends with and to have been befriended by them.
Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela.
In 1955 there was a campaign called Let Us Speak of Freedom, and they wanted to encourage people to give voice to their own demands and their own desires about how they would like to see South Africa. The ideas were collated together and drafted into what was to become the Freedom Charter. And they called a big Congress of the people, where people were going to come and be given a copy of the Charter and decide whether to adopt it. And it became a template for the aspirations of the liberation movement, right up till the time of the new South Africa, and elements of it were embodied in the new constitution. Good. Oh, se boloke,
Oh, se boloque,
oh, se boloke moreno,
oh, se boloque, se chabasa, eres tú, se chabasa,